we should be going about now. Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Hirsch at Home with Hirsch's, and thank you for joining us for our wellness webinar this morning. And, we go through such traumatic times, and every time you think it's over, there's another flipping strain coming. Where these strains come from, God alone knows. But thank goodness everybody's now realized that it's all over the world. It's not just South Africa, although they targeted us. Thanks to them, I should be flying to Egypt today, and I'm not, because Egypt closed us down. I then booked a trip to Zanzibar to leave tomorrow, which was closed down, so here I stay. And I think everybody's going to be staying at home, which is fine if you've got a lovely home and you love the people in your home. But what happens when you haven't got a lovely home and you don't love the people in your home? Then you're stuck with them whether you like it or not. So today, with my co-hosts, Jess and Stacey, we have got the amazing Charisse Fourie, who is going to be chatting to us today about trauma. Now, we've all been through trauma, and some of us take it better than others. Some people can cope with it, and some people just can't. And the last trauma that we had in Durban was not only the looting, which for me was bad enough, and I coped with that and I got through it. To me, the most difficult part was not being able to buy food. And that was the first time in my life that I experienced something like that. And thank God I didn't have time to go to the shops because I was working. And thank God also my neighbors were incredible. They just bought me so much food. I actually had food for 4 months afterwards. But it was just, that was a shock to me to say, oh my goodness, if I need to eat something and I don't have it, what do I do? And I know what my driver said, I went to buy bread, madam, and there was just no bread. And I said, oh my goodness, And so I gave him a couple of tins and, baked beans and tomatoes and stuff to eat. But I just thought that was quite a traumatic thing, which I cope with. I'm a coper, so I cope and I just got over it. But Charisse, come on in and tell us, when somebody comes to you that has been through trauma and the various different traumas, what's the first thing you say to them?
Well, I think one of the first things that I like to talk to people about trauma is to really explain that their response to the traumatic experience that they've had is not of their choosing. Most of the time, our nervous system has an automatic response to an overwhelming situation where you are helpless. And I think it's such an important aspect to tell people, because sometimes there's a lot of shame around, why did I freeze in that moment? How come I didn't fight back? Or how come I felt so stuck or frozen? Or perhaps it's, I can't believe I screamed at my boss in that situation, and those things are important to understand, that our nervous systems are in control of how we respond to those challenges and stresses, not our cognitive brains.
Yeah, and with me, when I was held up in my shop, 7 guys with AK-47s, I ran. Now, I'm not a fast runner. Why would I run? Fine. It was the daftest thing to do, but that was just, it's your reflexes kick in a case like that. Can you control them, or do you just let it go?
Yeah, so most of the time, those split-second reactions you actually cannot control. That's your nervous system is an ancient protective mechanism in your body. It's there designed to keep you alive and safe. And when you are under that kind of threat, especially that life situation, your nervous system reads that situation in a good couple seconds, like split seconds, and it decides for you what your appropriate response can be. And you get 4 different responses. So there is fighting back, fleeing, which is what you did, Margaret. Then there's fall, which is actually people pleasing, trying to appease the situation, trying to help as much as possible. And then there's freeze, where your body may shut down, you may not be able to speak or move or do anything, you just kind of stay frozen in time. So those are your 4 autonomic nervous system responses to danger.
That's amazing. And it was amazing that mine was to flee, because I'm a fighter, and I would have thought that I would have fought back, but I suppose with 7 guys with AK-47s, it was a bit of a crazy situation. So, and then I think you're real, and I'll just tell you the story because it's quite a funny story. So get there, and nobody could ever open the safe at Hirsch's. It was like it had a wonky key, and we all used to battle and struggle. And so I was there with this guy, and I could see he was like the lead guy, and there were the other 6 who were busy getting as much as they could at the time. And he said to me to take me to the safe. So I went to the safe knowing full well I didn't have any way of opening it. It was, so difficult. But isn't it just amazing? That day I just opened it as if it was just opened. And it was a home and garden show time, and we had a lot of money in it. So I said to him, I was handing them the money out the safe, and I said to him, do you guys share the money? So now my other brain kicked in. Do you guys share the money? He said, yes, we do. So I said to him, I took a big bundle of 200s. I said, why don't you shove this in your underpants, and then the others won't know you've got it. So of course he did, because his response was to listen to me as like his boss. So he shoved the money into his underpants. Why did I do that? Because I knew those same guys had held up a furniture shop in West Street, and they had raped all the women. And I thought, if he has the money in his underpants, those pants are not coming off. And I also knew that the leader would start and the others would follow. But if he didn't start, the others wouldn't follow. So he shoved the 200 rands into his underpants. And thank goodness, with all of us, the maids and everything, who were all terrified out of their wits, they left with all their pants intact and us intact, because he had the big bundle of 200 notes in his underpants. Isn't that an amazing story?
Wow. Yeah, and it's so amazing when your cognitive brain can kick into action and can look for those like alternative solutions. So you're on your bar. Wow.
But now there are other forms of trauma as well. And one of my friend's husband died of COVID now, and she was just devastated. She left with 3 children. He was big, he was strong, he was rich, he was powerful, he was everything in her life. And now there's nothing. There's this big void. How do you cope with that?
That kind of trauma and that shock to the system can be very difficult for people to just move on. I think a lot of our society recommends moving on, pushing forward. But when you've got such an extreme shock and there's no way for your nervous system to process that, so there's no one for her to fight, there's no one to run from. So your nervous system it's not able to process and finish the survival response. And especially for COVID, for a lot of people now, there's no fight this virus physically with our muscles and our bodies. Can't run away from it. It's everywhere. So this is really what trauma is defined as a situation that overwhelms the nervous system and that we were unable to complete our survival response. Mm-hmm. For her, that process of grief and process of letting go will take a long time to process that through the body. And she may understand that he's no longer with her, but the body is still going to feel that longing, and it's still going to give her these overwhelming sensations that may be difficult for her to feel at the time. But taking our time to feel those sensations that come up through our body, whether it's pains or beating heart, sore stomachs, our body experiencing this trauma and this loss along with our minds. So my work is really to support people's bodies and their awareness of their nervous system and why their body is responding the way their body is, and to help them move through those overwhelming sensations so that they can come back to feeling safe and whole in their bodies and in their lives.
Now, it's such a difficult thing, and you have to have that time to mourn. Yes, we understand that, but it's at some stage you've got to get over it. Do you preempt that stage and say, okay, I've done my mourning now, I've cried enough, enough's enough already? How do you make that decision? This is that I've cried enough, I've got to move on with my life. This is the next chapter of my life. I just said to her, that chapter of your life is closed. This is the next chapter of your life. It's opening. You've got to open it and just decide how you're going to go forward. Is there a time, or how do you know when you're at that time?
So for me, that's about awareness with what you are feeling, because a lot of us will try to numb those sensations of grief, whether it's excessive TV watching, shopping, social media, etc. We want to numb those feelings, but really the way to get through grief like that is exactly that, to go through it. So by feeling those sensations and allowing it to come through the body. But everybody is different, For me, grief never really ends. It just evolves and it changes into a different feeling that you get perhaps a little more comfortable carrying that grief with you, that you can open yourself up to new experiences without necessarily letting go of that old chapter. You know, they almost run concurrently together. But for me, that work with clients who are experiencing grief is a process of understanding where am I at today and honoring that every single day. Some days you may be able to go out and laugh and be with friends, and other days it may be I need to stay at home in bed and just feel this.
Yeah. So you say we've got to feel that feeling and just let that feeling flow through us and understand this is grief. It's okay to cry. It's difficult for me. I'm not a crier. I actually never cry. It's so bad that I've got problems with my eyes because my tear ducts don't work because they never ever do work. But so you'd cry it, you'd get it over it. I know with the other, you know, there's so many feelings you go through. You have the denial, the anger, the blah, blah, blah. How do you fight? Do you go through those in order, or do you realize that I've got to go through this? How do you work it?
So those stages of grief, you can go through all of them in one day and then repeat that cycle the next week. Those are, you know, they give them as steps, almost like it's going to be a linear journey, but it never is. Trauma and healing is never a straightforward path you get from one destination to the other. You may cycle back around to that anger years later or months later. You may experience those different stages again and again. So there is no linear roadmap to healing from trauma or coming out the other side and it being healed and different. There really is only this process. Like, that's why I like people to honor their process. Like, feel that, honor it, because that is also honoring that person's life and yourself. And allow whichever emotions are coming up. But you've also got to support yourself. You know, it's very good to understand, how do I support my body and my mind, instead of just allowing it to, like you were talking about, overwhelm you, and then you're stuck there and you can't move forward. We don't want someone to become stuck in a process of trauma recovery.
Yeah.
You know, that would be where all these unhealthy patterns might solidify and start to become personality traits rather than coping mechanisms.
Now, Jess, when people come to you and they've been through trauma, how do you work out which trauma counselor is going to be the best for them? Because that's quite a tricky business, really.
Yes, I mean, obviously we have someone like Cherise who specializes specifically in trauma. So it would, if they want to chat a little bit about what they've been through, then we could possibly reroute them or route them in the right direction. But it would generally be, I've been through trauma, and then direct them towards someone like Cherise. But I just want to, Cherise, maybe you can jump in here. I just want to touch on what actually classifies trauma or a traumatic event, because I think traditionally speaking, or in the old days, it was something really severe like war, rape, abuse. And not to say that those things aren't traumatic, but I think the definition around trauma is slowly changing into, you know, it can be anything. It can be a day-to-day event. It can be an ongoing event. It can be something small, something big, something that you perceive as traumatic, not necessarily what the dictionary says is traumatic. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people either don't seek help or take a long time to seek help, because they feel like their problem's not big enough, or they feel like their problem's too big. And they feel shame and guilt and blame and all those sort of things. So I don't know if you want to just chat a little bit about, you know, what classifies trauma.
And I love that you bring that up, Jess, because it's honestly how I start every discussion with a new client or workshop, is to start with what is trauma, because people, like you say, expect it to be what we would call a big T event. So, you know, like being attacked, a car accident, being in hospital or something like that. But trauma is actually defined now as any unresolved autonomic nervous system response. It's about the nervous system's response to the event and not the event itself. So something that would be traumatic to me may not be traumatic to you, Margaret. It's really about whether your nervous system feels overwhelmed by the situation that it is facing. And if you do not, if you are helpless in that situation, if you are unable to do what needs to be done in order to protect yourself. So when you're speaking about that looting situation that you went through and then you were unable to get to food, that would be defined from an autonomic nervous system point of view as traumatic, because you are helpless in that situation. You are unable to do something that would be life-preserving for yourself and your family. And so your nervous system would go on to super high alert. This is now a life-threatening situation. But the other point about trauma is that it doesn't need to be something that happened to you. It could be the situation that you are living in. So living in systemic racism would be classified as traumatic. It's overwhelming. There's nothing you can do to change the situation. Living in extreme poverty would again be defined as trauma, as well as things that didn't happen for you. So a lot of us go, well, nothing bad happened to me when I was growing up. You know, I don't understand why I have anxiety today. Like, well, did you have all your emotional needs met? Were your parents healed from their past trauma? Were they really attuned to you as a baby, or were they stressed out or on their phones a lot, and you didn't get that attachment and attunement that babies and children need? So trauma has got a wide array of what it really means, but how we measure trauma in a person is how is their autonomic nervous system responding today? If somebody's stuck on high anxiety, then we know, regardless of whether they're cognitively aware that they experienced trauma, we know there's hidden trauma in their past or in their bodies. So trauma, we've got to stop thinking about trauma as something terrible that happens to you in that moment, like being held up at gunpoint, and recognize that it can be anything from chronic stress all the way to absent parents when you were younger, to poverty, to racism. Trauma is widespread, so we need to, and if we don't resolve the trauma, it becomes stuck in your bodies and the trauma stack up.
I think what you said is so real, because with children, and now with us going through all this trauma, our children are going through trauma as well. Now, how do we say to them, like, you might be feeling a bit stressed and a bit anxious, and especially now with COVID coming in? I know my grandsons who are over 12 have all been vaccinated. The little ones haven't been vaccinated yet. Now, some of their friends have got COVID and they're very anxious. Mommy, is he going to be all right? You know, how do we speak to children and actually, well, I'm a great one to put it all out there, you know, just tell them the whole story. But how should we handle it with children when they're getting anxious about COVID and about all this type of thing that's happening?
So the big thing about anxiety is that it's your autonomic nervous system reading danger. So when we work with children, we would talk to them a lot about safety. So where do they feel the most safe? Who makes them feel safe? What activities make them feel safe? How can we help and support them to feel safer in their environments? So we talk to them a lot about that. Who can you speak to? Who's the person that makes you feel better, and how do they do that? Because a lot of the time when we're seeing all these danger messages, like all of us are seeing right now, you open the news, you listen to the radio, it's just danger, danger, danger. So my work is really to talk about safety. How do you feel safe? Maybe it's a weighted blanket for a child. Maybe a lot more cuddling. We reduce our circle of people, but we have a lot more closeness and intimacy. Perhaps they feel better when they are engaging in a play activity. So we up the play, we up messages of safety, and we up that connection. Because the big thing about trauma as well is if we don't heal in connection afterwards, after the traumatic experience, that produces a lot of more dysregulation. It's that connection and safety within your community or your primary caregiver that's so important to help support us through that trauma.
Now, Stacey, excuse me, coughing and I haven't got COVID, I've been tested. Stacey, on your side, when people come to you having been through a traumatic experience, how do you deal with it? What's the first thing that you say to them?
So I actually learned a lot from Cherise after the looting and unrest, because we had a massive incident on our farm where we had a group of over 50 people come to our house. We had to evacuate actually, that was an interesting time for me because I got to see that automatically I would want to fight and I would want to stay there. But my husband obviously was like, get in the car, take the kids and leave. And as we were driving out, there was this massive crowd at our front gate. So for me, it was such a blessing to have the access of hearing Cherie speak many times and learning her techniques, because that was something that we needed to deal with as a family. And so I actually want to redirect this back to you, Cherie. Please can you tell us what exactly trauma releasing exercise provider does? And if you can share with us some of your incredible techniques.
Great. So my training comes from trauma releasing exercises. So we call this TRE, and TRE was developed globally by a trauma expert, and it's now actually the first line of defense against PTSD for war veterans in the United States. So it's a highly effective non-drug approach to healing from trauma. But it's so interesting because I've been talking a lot about the nervous system, because our nervous system is the one that's responsible for our stress response, that it has an inbuilt mechanism to release the trauma and the cortisol and adrenaline that is released during a traumatic experience. So, and this release is actually through shaking or trembling or tremoring, as we would call it. So the body has this inbuilt mechanism to a traumatic experience of shaking it out. So the body will tremble and it will shake, and it will allow all that survival energy that it's been created inside of our bodies to release. And it's so important, especially in these times where we are not fighting a lion. We're not using this energy that's been like charged into our bodies. So the first thing that happens, your heart rate goes up, your inflammation in your muscles goes up. We get all of this charge and energy so that we can fight or run. But when you're fighting or running and you're actually just writing emails, but your heart's pumping, your blood pressure's up, your muscles are tight, then there's nowhere for that energy to go. So what I do is I teach people how to activate this tremor mechanism. And once you've learned how that your body already has this natural ability to tremor it out, then we can actually deal with trauma and the survival energy that's created in the body right then and there. And it doesn't get stuck. We tell the nervous system, you are safe, let it go. It shakes it out. And then you get this overwhelming sense of peace that comes through your body. Your body relaxes, all of that tension starts to dissipate. And the nervous system now knows whatever that dangerous situation was, it's now in the past. I can put it to bed and I can continue. And this is where that moving on comes from. But until we tell the body it's safe and it can let go, it's going to hold on to that energy forever. So it's the work that I do through TRE. Yeah, and it's such an amazing process to witness.
Yeah, that's incredible. I remember when my daughter was born, and I'm a control freak. So my daughter was born, and then I went into the tremor, and I'd never had it before. I didn't know why that happened, but obviously it was just such a relief. Oh my gosh, this is done, But now we've got a question here. Finding a life partner in the pandemic is quite challenging. What does the speaker suggest? What about the law of attraction? Well, I just want to tell you quickly. I know it's Sharice's platform, but I just want to tell you quickly because I had a friend who had split up with her boyfriend 3 years beforehand, and we'd been really looking for the man of her dreams, and we'd done a vision board, and we'd put all the things, what are the non-negotiables, she wanted these, he must have these attributes, and she's tall, so he had to be tall, and we went through all the attributes and we wrote it all down. We put pictures of people that she thought would fit the bill. And in the middle of COVID, on the second week of COVID, she was staying with a friend because she didn't want to stay by herself because she was completely alone. And the friend's husband had his accountant come around or something like that. And she met this fellow, and she said, normally she wouldn't have not even looked at him, but he was alone, she was alone. They had coffee together, and one thing led to another. And now they've realized that they were meant for each other for life. So it just goes to show you can do it. You've got to, first of all, I think, have a positive attitude that there is somebody out there for you. The second thing I said to you is you have to be, you can't say, I want this gorgeous Adonis, but I look like the wreck of the Hesperus, you know. You've got to make yourself look. Will that man, if the man of your dreams is standing there, will he look at you and think, this is the woman of my dreams? You have to become that person. But Sharice, it's your platform. What do you say? Finding a life partner in the pandemic is quite challenging. What does the speaker suggest? What about the law of attraction? Are you going to attract somebody to you in this time?
Yeah, so my advice with all of this stuff is always to start with yourself, you know, and healing yourself, being really that self-compassion and self-love for yourself is so important, because people can read that. Like we feel our nervous systems are reading each other. We can read these micro expressions in a person's face. So my first question I ask people when they're like, well, I'm looking for this, and I ask, with why? What exactly are you looking for? Are you looking for, you know, a life partner to witness what is happening for you? Are you looking for somebody to partner with? And really focus on, do I have all of that for myself already? And my biggest journey towards healing and feeling to truly connect with another person had nothing to do with other people. It only had to do with really connecting with myself and understanding who I was, what I had to offer, and loving that. And then people can read that and pick it up from you. And the right people start becoming attracted to you. But when we're broken and we're desperate to try and fill these empty bits of ourselves with other people, it tends to go wrong in some way. So my advice is always to start with yourself, really love yourself. And also, like you were saying, Margaret, be clear about who you want. Be very clear about what your values are, and communicate that up front. You know, this is the kind of person I'm looking for, and this is what I need in a partner. Instead of the game that we often play of pretending to be someone we're not to attract the right person.
Yeah.
To me, it's like being authentic, being healed, and being honest.
Now, I see everybody speaks a different language here. TRE saved me from PTSD. What is TRE and what's PTSD?
So TRE is that trauma releasing exercises, and post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Oh, okay. Wow. You see, I'm learning such a lot here. Now, we've got Penny says, does that exercise help with layered stress over years of sweeping things under the carpet? She's been sweeping under the carpet for years. She's actually just decided, this is my year, I'm out of there. And now she's got to get rid of all that. Before she can go forward, she's got to get rid of all the shit that's happened before.
Absolutely. So this is the thing why chronic stress is the same for the nervous system as being in a hurricane or experiencing a very traumatic event. Chronic stress, it does the same dysregulation to the nervous system, so that all of that sweeping under the carpet is going to produce that same dysregulation, which can cause all sorts of issues. So the TRE can do everyday stress. I'm a session after this, go, whoo, that was scary being live, as well as it can work for what happened to me when I was perhaps 5 years old. So that the system of trusting your body and really coming home to your body and befriending your nervous system and all of your responses inside yourself can only lead to good places. And that's seen it over and over and over, and it's a beautiful thing to let go and to stop holding on. Yeah.
Now, Adela says here, what helps us as a family from losing all these people is to pray for our loved ones. And I think having a spiritual life, you pray to whoever you pray to, but just to be able to pray and just know there's a greater being out there that's with you and is walking this journey with you. How important do you think that is?
Absolutely, so important. This through when we are in this state, we call it social connection, social engagement. This connection is important not only for yourself, like being connected with yourself, being connected with loved ones, but then being connected to a wider purpose. There's a huge amount of safety that comes from that. And that might look different for every person, whether it is through a Christian God or perhaps it's the sense of the universe, or perhaps it's the sense of being connected with the stars. This sense of connection is where this peace and acceptance of life comes from, instead of staying in this, I need to fight for everything, or I need to run from everything. Everything looks like danger. When our nervous system is settled and we can connect to our community, connect to our wider purpose, then we find this connection, joy, satisfaction, love, compassion, all those wonderful emotions that really move the world around. So spiritual connection is just as important as connecting with your body.
Okay, now Patricia Pillai's come in from Facebook, and she says she's watching this, but she said her husband's in hospital with illness and he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So she would love to get you to visit him, but I know the hospitals don't let people in at the moment. What about doing something like this over Zoom? Is that possible? Do you find it's exactly the same? I think you get exactly the same response over Zoom. If the hospital won't let you in, which I know they won't. I mean, they won't even let people to go in and see the babies at the moment. So yeah, if somebody's in hospital and they're really suffering and like Patricia's husband really needs you to go and chat to him, can she just get hold of you and then you can just do a Zoom call?
Absolutely. So since the start of the pandemic, all of us, we had to adjust to going online. And what I've loved about taking TRE online is to see I can still empower people with the tools to self-heal. I don't need to be there in person. It does feel different in person versus online, just like we all know having coffee together in person would be very different to coffee online. But this is a self-healing tool. So I teach the exercises online. I teach people how to connect with their bodies, support you through the process, whether it's via WhatsApp or Zoom. But there's absolutely no reason why people who are in isolation should need to feel isolated.
Yeah.
You know, we've got amazing technology tools now, let's use them.
Yeah, I think that's it. Now, Stacey, I just hope your sounds come back, because your sound was a bit wonky earlier.
I'm sorry.
Tell us, now you say that you have a lot of Connectable Life people available over Christmas and New Year, because, you know, Christmas and New Year, it's a joyous time if you've got all your family around you and everybody's, but if you're now isolating and your family is not here, or like Glenda was going to go to her son in Australia, now she can't travel. We're praying that they're going to open it up again. But anyway, how do you actually cope with that? And who can you phone when you know, Connectable Life's around, but is there somebody who we phone you and you put us onto somebody who's working over that time?
Yes, that's absolutely what we would do. You could contact us and we would contact the specialist and see who's available and put you in contact with one of the specialists who are available over that season.
And even if it's Christmas Eve or Old Year's Eve or something like that?
You know, depending on the time, like it might be a little bit tricky at certain stages, but if somebody needs to talk, we'll always be able to find somebody that's available to chat, you know, even if it's just ourselves. And we can just chat to somebody for even half an hour, whatever it is, you know, just to be helping. Yeah. But I mean, in this time, this is where people, you know, they also need to reach out to their families and their friends. And if they don't have family and friends and they can't reach out, we are here, you know. But it's the same for us. Like if we know somebody is struggling over the season, we should all want to help even more. You know, I grew up in a family. Sorry, is my sound good again?
No, your sound's very wonky, hey, but anyway.
Oh, sorry.
You're gonna work
Okay,
around
I'll end it there.
I just want to add to that on the Connectable Life website, you can see the specialist availability. So, you know, it doesn't even have to be a phone call. You can lie in your bed and, sorry, now my voice is going wonky, lie in your bed and, you know, see who's available within the next 2 weeks, see who's available within the next 2 hours, whatever it may be. But if it happens to be the middle of the night and you're feeling desperate, there are obviously also 24-hour hotlines that you can phone, like SADAG and Lifeline and the likes. They have people around the clock that if you need someone then and there, and for whatever reason you can't get hold of a specialist, then there are also those options. Sharice, yes, sorry, Margaret.
Sorry, Sharice, I was going to say to you, so if somebody's at home now, I'm by myself, I've had to isolate, my friends are all having a party and I'm feeling very miserable. What are the tools that you can give us to use on ourselves to make us just feel a little bit better? You know, I always say this too shall pass. I know my friend Megan's got that tattooed on her chest. This too shall pass. I mean, I'm feeling shit right now, but I'm not going to feel that way forever. What do you say to people? What are the tools that we can use to make ourselves feel better?
So one of the things that I love to use is really this presence of being in your own body. And sometimes that can be enough to get the experience that is feeling overwhelming to slow down. So the first step that we take in trauma healing is really this awareness and being in your body and in your nervous system, and then using your breath. And it always sounds a bit cliche now because everyone goes, oh, well, just take a deep breath and get over it. But it is really part of your autonomic nervous system. And it's also part of, we can still control it. So it's really the gateway to calming the body down. So really, I actually teach breathing now because so many of us have forgotten actually how to breathe in a way that's going to calm those overwhelming sensations of whether it's sadness, loneliness, envy, all of those emotions. We can calm them down by breathing with our bellies. So a lot of us are breathing with our chests. We tend to shallow breaths, especially when we're under stress or pressure, we'll breathe with our chests. But if you actually lie down, so everybody can do this at home, you can lie down or even just sit in your chair, slow that breath down and really concentrating on allowing your belly breathing to take over. So let's do it together. We can take 3 breaths together, but let's just see how does it change our physiology? How does it make us feel a little bit calmer? So everybody that's watching at home, you can just sit in your chair and really just now can you feel the chair underneath you? Can you feel the chair supporting you? Can you feel your feet on the ground? So really coming to this present moment and being in your bodies. You can keep your eyes open or closed. It really is up to you. And you can place one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach. And we're going to take 3 slow breaths. And you really want to concentrate on your belly pushing out. So in and slowly out. And in and out. And then one more in and out.
It really does work, hey? It really does work.
Very, very quickly. So your nervous system is reading your breath the whole time. So if you are breathing with your chest, it's that there's a dangerous situation you're dealing with. So simply by breathing with your belly and changing and controlling that rhythm of your breath to slow down your experience of the world, your physiology is going to follow suit. You may start to feel sensations in your body that you are unaware of. Perhaps now you can feel, oh, there's a little bit of tightness in my shoulder. I wonder what that's about. Do I need to do some stretching? And really communicate with your body because it's communicating with you the entire time through sensations, tingling, pulling, pressure, tightness. It's telling you what it needs from you, but most of us are not listening. We are rushing from one task to the other. We're achieving, we're doing things, and then our body will start to shout and it will start to scream at us through chronic pain, sleeplessness, IBS, until we hear it and we stop and we listen and really connect with our belly breathing and using our rhythm of our breath to come back home, because home is where we live. We are living in this body. We're not living in this world first and foremost in this beautiful body of ours.
Now, some people
place to start.
Some people do exercise, and exercise obviously does breathe. Why do people smoke? It slows down your breathing. Why do they exercise? Because it gets your breathing going. Glenda and I do yoga, and we always do the breathing and the yoga as well. But for the man in the street who hasn't done any of that, where do they actually start?
So this is the best place to start. It's really 5 minutes every day of belly breathing. And I can teach one, I'm going to teach you another breathing technique. It's the simplest tools that we can use is our breath. So there's so many different breathing techniques that you can use. And one of them that I love to teach for people that have high anxiety is called the triangular breath. So this is breathing in, breathing out, and then holding your body without any air for about 4 counts and repeating that cycle. So we can do it together quickly. And so you can feel it in about 1 minute, the changes in your body. So if you breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. So this holding of the breath is telling your heart rate to slow down. You don't need so much oxygen. You're not fighting anything dangerous right now. So by holding that out breath and extending that out breath, your heart rate's going to slow down, the inflammation's going to go down, your blood pressure is going to decrease, and your body's going to feel safe with you. It's going to feel at peace. So wonderful technique. Use it when you're waiting in a line in a grocery store and you're getting anxious. Yeah, go faster, go faster. That's when you're like, no, breathe, slow it down, take this moment to come back to yourself. So it's one of the places to start, and also really looking after your nutrition. People forget to do that when they're stressed out, but looking after your vitamin B levels, your vitamin D levels, C and omega-3 can sometimes make a huge difference. And you didn't even realize that you were perhaps a little short on these vitamins. So your nervous system can't function properly if it doesn't have everything it needs. So I'll always check people's levels as well. Can we support your body with a bit of GABA? Can we support your body with vitamin D or vitamin B? And just really ensure that we're doing the basics right first, like breathing and nutrition, before we get to the big stuff.
Absolutely. Now, Jess, from your stage, when people come to you and they say, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend Christmas and New Year completely on my own. What do you say to them? It's so important to, especially as women, I always encourage women to have women friends. It's so important to have girlfriends that you can actually chat to. Because, I've had my husband for 50 years, but I can't chat to him about things that irritate me because he'll just give me a solution straight away and say, get over it. So I like to chat and I like to chew things over. And I think, building up these relationship with girlfriends over the years is very important, because now when you need your friends, you need to be able to call on them, and they need to, you need to have that sort of, you built the foundation to be able to phone that person up and say, like yesterday, I just phoned my friend in Australia and we spoke for an hour, and we both felt so great at the end of it, because we'd had, it was like old times when we were together, when our kids were little, and we were having these long chats. How important is it, do you think, to have girlfriends?
Yeah, absolutely. We can't live our happiest, fullest lives without that love, belonging, connection. And obviously at the moment, COVID is making it especially difficult. You're hearing a lot of stories where families are supposed to be together, and, as you've mentioned, at the drop of the hat, they suddenly can't be together. And it's already been 2 years of this, and you just keep thinking, when will it end? When will it end? So it's absolutely important. I think everybody's got someone. If you don't have someone, there is someone. So never think that you are alone, because there is always someone that you can reach out to. And even if it's not physically, I think the last two years have shown us that it's always possible. If you want it, you can make it happen. There are ways to be social virtually. Look at us right now. We're all sitting in different places, different provinces even, yet we are having the most beautiful session as though we were all in the same room together. Obviously, it would be nice to chink a little glass of champagne or something afterwards, but it's it's as effective. It can still happen. It can still bring the same feelings of joy, the same feelings of connection. I love the idea here to just a thought, make a plan as to who to contact if it gets really tough. Obviously, one of the ways to prevent the overwhelm is to be proactive. So if you know that it's probably going to be a difficult season for you, have a little go-to plan if things do get really tough. A phone number, you know how they say to avoid crisis, have the fire department on your fridge, the police on your fridge, the hospital, the ambulance, have it all on your fridge. Yes, have your little self-care go-to pack ready if you feel like it's going to be a difficult season. And if you don't know where to start and how to do that, reach out, because we can obviously also help with that. Charisse, before we run out of time, there is something I wanted to ask you. So I think we're finding a lot these days that adult mental health struggles are being rooted to childhood trauma. And you almost go through your life struggling, go through your life feeling triggered, and you don't really know why. You don't know why you're feeling this way constantly. And then eventually 11, 12, 13, 14 years later, you go and get the help that you should have got 10 years ago. And it comes out to something that happened when you were 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think what we really want to encourage is people to help their kids, get them the help they need then and there. And also us as adults, as soon as we feel a little bit off, if something feels off, it probably is off. So go and talk about it, get the help you need. So I just wanted you to touch on this unresolved trauma and how it doesn't go away. It doesn't just, if you've been through something traumatic, you need to do something about it. And these triggers that we experience when we don't resolve the trauma and what it's actually doing to our bodies each and every time we, have a memory or a reminder of something that's happened that has, been unresolved.
Yeah, that's such an important topic, and it's really the crux of what trauma specialists end up dealing with, is that unresolved trauma that stays in your body like that ends up actually making you more susceptible to future trauma. And that's probably the worst aspect of leaving childhood trauma unresolved, is that you are more likely to experience traumatic experiences going forward. And what trauma does is that it stacks on top of each other. So this unresolved trauma creates more trauma and more dysregulation within the body. And so you become more susceptible to stress, you become more susceptible to other people knowing that there's unresolved trauma. So perpetrators of trauma can recognize people that have unresolved trauma in them. It's a horrible fact, but so as you go through life, you become, like you were saying, more and more triggered until you crack and you feel like I cannot cope anymore, or your body breaks down. So when we think about that autonomic response, that heart rate going up, that blood pressure going up, inflammation going up, if we leave that trauma unresolved in the body, your body is going to be living with high levels of inflammation, high levels of acid, high levels of blood pressure, and you will actually start to create a storm within your body. And it's going to come out as things like autoimmune diseases. Most people that we come across that have an autoimmune disease, we can track it back to unresolved childhood trauma. You can also then start to develop things like irritable bowel syndrome, which is a mild version, insomnia, anxiety, depression, and all the way through to things like cancer and the worst diseases. So this idea of just getting over it, or I don't remember it happening, so, it's not going to affect me. It's a false narrative that we really need to let go of now, because your body does not forget and your nervous system does not forget. If we leave these things and we stuff them and we stuff them and we stuff them, the body's responding to the trauma, whether you are responding to it with your cognitive mind or not, and really don't want to leave the body in a state of dysregulation for so long. It cannot heal itself. It cannot be healthy with unresolved trauma in your system. So it's so important. And I think people still have this idea of shame, like I don't need help, I'm just going to get on with it. I'm going to push on and I'm going to make it a success. And we need to start normalizing this idea of co-regulation. People do not heal by themselves. They heal in connection. They heal together. My nervous system is reading your nervous system as yours is reading mine. And if your nervous system is feeling calm, regulated, my nervous system is going to respond to that sense of safety and start to heal and start to come down in that regulation. And so together we heal. We don't heal by ourselves at home pretending everything is fine. We see ramifications later on in life. And we want to avoid that. We want to be healthy and happy and connected.
Yeah, I think I'm just writing in the chat, together we heal. And I think that's exactly why I'm having this, because you can't do it on your own. People don't know who to ask. They don't know who to speak to. And yeah, we've just got to get these groups together. If anybody wants some really amazing reading over the Christmas period, it's a book called Many Minds, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. He is actually an amazing person. I trained with him in America, and he is just incredible. And it takes you even back to your previous lives. And I know a lot of you don't believe in it, but read the book before you condemn it. And he tells you that he was the most skeptical. He was a Jewish doctor in America, very scientifically bred. And he came across this and how he went back. And it helped me such a lot in my life to go back to my previous life. And then I knew why I was doing things in this life and what my triggers were. I'm still triggered by a policeman, and it's just due to something that happened to me in my previous life. And it's just incredible today how these things, and now I can deal with it. And I was actually stopped by a bogus policeman in Johannesburg 2 weeks ago. I came back from a ladies' night, 9:30 at night. He pulled me over. I knew he wasn't a policeman, but what do you do when the red blue lights stop you? I stopped. I knew it. And I just put my husband on my phone, and I was talking to him. I said, I'm talking to you, but this policeman's stopping me. And I said to the policeman, I'm talking to my husband on my phone, and he can hear you, and I know he knows where I am. And he said, drive on. And the next night, the 3 girls were caught and put in the boot of the car and driven off by a bogus policeman. So, before, if I hadn't read Brian Weiss's book and trained with him, I would not have been able to cope, because my reaction to a policeman was complete trauma straight away. But understanding myself, I was able to cope with that situation and work through it and work forward. So yeah, that's just some interesting reading for the holidays to get on with. But let's just see, when people are experiencing it, a lot of people say they're depressed now. Now, I'm a great believer, you do depression. You just don't become depressed. You do depression. Your head goes down. Let's do depression. Head down, eyes down, shoulders hunched. Now let's do happy. Yay, your chin is up, your shoulders are back. It's a whole different thing. So your physiological body can make your, and now the whole thing with the subconscious mind is it can't differentiate truth from fiction. So you have to bluff yourself that you're happy. You put your chin up, your shoulders back, your head up, and you will feel better than you will if you're doing depression, which is your head down, your shoulders down. Cherise, what do you say to people? They say, I'm so depressed. Or they say, well, I'm not surprised. Look at your head. It's down. Your shoulders are down. Why don't you just, and they're all saying, chin up, chaps. That was, you'll feel better when your chin is up higher. And so sometimes I just lift my chin and I immediately feel better. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, so your physiology, just as we now know that the mind affects the body, so is true the other way around, how the body affects your state of mind. And that's why I love working with the body. And we can help the body open up, because you do see in depression, the body responds. The body responds in a protective mechanism, and it wants to curl over itself and protect itself. So that's what I see. When I see those stooped shoulders and those downcast eyes, I see a dysregulated nervous system that's gone into shutdown, that's gone into freeze. It cannot cope. It is now so overwhelmed. And I try and work with the body, just like you're saying that there's a reason why those sayings exist, chin up.
Yeah.
It's because it really is that way. We can work with the body to make it feel safer, to give it more energy, to help it come out of this frozen state. So it does work, change posture, changing everything, because our physiology is going to feed back to the mind that there is a sense of safety here. But it's not that simple to say chin up. you know, and
Yeah. I think it's a great tool to use without diminishing the state of the person. You know, it's not to say what you're feeling and experiencing isn't real, but this is how you can possibly feel better, kind of thing.
Yes, this is how we support the body to come out of that. And it's all about support, not about shaming. The more we add shame to a situation, the worse the situation's going to get. So we support the body to open up again. And sometimes you have to do that very slowly. If you go too quickly, the body's going to shut down again and say, So it's fast in trauma healing.
So Stacey, you've had your slightly garbled sound, but give us a quick wrap up from your side.
Yeah, this has been so valuable to me again, because it's made me think about so many different things, and like with the layering, that's, you know, it's scary that we have that layering, and if we don't deal with it, it just gets compounded and we become the ones who suffer at the end of the day. So thank you, Cherise, that's so amazing. And also so amazing about exercise and sleep and the food that we're eating, our nutrition, and you know, those things are all so important to have a whole holistic body. And like you said, this is our body. We want to make sure that we are living in the perfect home that we've got, you know. So I hope I'm not too echoey, sorry. But next week, very exciting, we have got a functional medicine practitioner, Jules, and she's going to be discussing gut health.
Gut health. I'm a great believer in gut health. Your gut is right. Everything is right. Jess, just a quick wrap up from you. I found this amazing. I must be honest. I found it amazing. I thought it was going to be boring and quite miserable, but it wasn't at all. So thank you, Cherise, for that. But Jess, just a quick wrap up from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it couldn't be more relevant for everyone at the moment, the topic of trauma. It's one we don't always want to chat about, but it's something that we can all very much relate to at the moment. So I think that takes a bit of the boring factor away. But I think the main message is just don't wait. There's no problem too big. There's no problem too small. Reach out, do what you need to do for you or your loved ones. And there's no shame, and just, you know, before we can move forward and live our best lives, being the best version of ourselves, we sometimes need to look back and erase the dashboard, clear the dashboard, so to speak. So they are always
the computer.
Yes.
Cherise, wrap up from you to people who have never, you know, they've never needed a trauma counselor before. They don't know, is this trauma? I feel traumatized. I just feel that, you know, life is overwhelming me. Where do I go? What do I do? And when I come, what I say to you, actually, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. What do people say, you know, and how do they find you, and why should they come to you more than it?
Yeah, so for me, it's dealing with getting those overwhelming sensations down so that we can connect and feel joyful. So if you're suffering from anxiety and chronic stress, you're feeling irritable, or you're excessively worried, or you just feel disconnected from yourself and your life, that's when you want to know, how can I heal? So for me, it's not about trauma so much as about healing. How do I heal? How do I support myself to live my best possible life? You can find people like me and myself on Connectable Life, and really just support your body to be the greatest possible experience of the world. I don't think
decide to be joyful. Decide to be happy, make an absolute decision. This is just going to be 2022 is going to be my best year ever. I'm going to work now towards it and make sure that everything in 2022, no matter what life throws at me, I'm going to make the absolute best of it. So fantastic. Cherise's details are in the chat for those of you who need her. And I just wish you everything the best. And yes, next week we're going to talk about gut health, which is a fabulous subject, because on Thursday I'm doing my Christmas cooking, where I'm cooking the vegan turkey, the vegan roast, but we're also doing a proper turkey and a proper roast for those of you who are not vegan. I had some very rude comments from my staff about my vegan roast, but I thought it was fantastic. Those people, I'll tell you, it got finished in 2 seconds flat. Everybody said, no, can we rather have the real turkey? And I said, no, you're going to have this. It's going to be so much better for your gut. And I want to tell you, it was just amazing. They polished it off in 2 seconds flat. So yes, gut health. If your gut is right, the rest of you is right. So let's just get that right. So join us next week at 9 o'clock on on Monday for another session with us and with Connectable Life. Thank you so much, Jess, Stacey, and Cherise for being on the show today. Thank you to all of you who watched us. See, we only had one drop off the whole time. Everybody else stayed for the whole time. So thank you so much and have a wonderful week. See you next Monday.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.